Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes podcast, a show that celebrates all things nerdy. You'll get an insider's look into the world of comic books, graphic novels, TV and film, gaming and pop culture, as well as the technologies that drive all of it. Now, are you ready to get nerdy?
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes podcast, the show about all... Just kidding.
My gosh.
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes podcast.
Welcome.
The show about all things nerdy. We discuss nerd news, movies, TV shows, games, comics, and so much more. I'm Chad.
I'm Brian.
I'm Damien.
Embrace yourselves, because we're about to get nerdy. All right, guys. So here's the deal.
Hold on. I have to. Well done, Chad. Aside from
you.
sounding like a munchkin from Wizard of Oz at the beginning there, you did a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That. So over the past several weeks, we've gotten lots of feedback over our shows, primarily about how the quality has gone down. So I decided to take over because obviously Brian's not doing his job very well. And this is my show today. And we brought in Damien again for his...
Oh no, something happened to Chad's mic. Isn't it so sad? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
You got the Sharpie in the pad.
And look, and Chad's gone now. So, folks, what you have just witnessed is what we like to call usurping, which is also the same as a Judas or a Brutus, right? This is Chadus Maximus has decided that he is no longer a team player and therefore must be removed from existence. I'm just kidding. Now, Chad, you're more than welcome to come back.
Okay, I promise I'll play nice.
All right, there you go.
All right.
Just remember who holds the real power.
Apparently, yes. So now, all kidding aside, we do have an awesome topic I think is very relevant to all of us who are creators, people that engage with social media and try to promote maybe their own business and things like that. We'll be talking about the pros and cons of social media and promotion for creatives. And I think this is a topic that something that we need to discuss, and we're going to go through, talk about our projects, talk about our thoughts about social media, and in the end, we're going to give our own list of our pros and cons and argue whether it's a good or bad thing to be involved with. So, to break the ice,
I will say this: Chad put together a really good show. So, all kidding aside, props to him. But also, oh, where'd it go? If you want other great shows, where's those hands? There they are. Look at those beautiful hands. Thank you very much to the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. We are a proud member and associate of this wonderful group of shows that are on every day of the week. The next show on the lineup will be Nevermind the Furthermore with Brian K. Morris tomorrow morning. And then if you just take a quick look at all of these amazing shows throughout the rest of the week, folks, it's nothing but entertainment here on the Rising Tide Network. So thanks for letting us be a part of it. And we love all of our friends that are also a part of this network. Now, back to you, Chad.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Yes. So we had to show some love to our people. So I appreciate that. What I want to do is kind of break the ice to this discussion and just begin by going around and just give a brief summary of what your creative projects are, what your ultimate or long-term goal as a creator is, and then what part does social media play for you, and do you feel like it's a successful tool? And that will get us into the main part of our discussion. So Brian, why don't you go first? I know we're all know what you do with Memoirs of an Angel, but beyond that, what else do you have going on?
So I'm Brian Rodman. I am the author and illustrator of Memoirs of an Angel, a horror fantasy comic book series. Also, a post-apocalyptic action comedy adventure called The Nebulizer. I am also 1/3 of the Dastardly, well, 1/4 technically now Hi, Damien. Of the Dashly Dingoes podcast. I'm also 1/4 of Comic Book Spectrum on the Rising Tide Network every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am also now joining the Pros Club, and I am currently writing a short story for issue 4 of Stormgate Press's Pulp Reality magazine. And I'm really excited to bring this new character to life in that book. And I'm excited about this topic tonight. I really think it's important. And I'm really thankful, Chad, that you took the time to thoughtfully, there's like pages of notes, thoughtfully put this together. So yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks. You forgot the other two parts. So, what is your
What's that?
ultimate or
Oh,
long-term
oh.
goal?
Oh, I don't
What's your-
listen to you.
I know it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm here.
What's-
I'm here to rein you in a little bit. So, what's your ultimate or long-term goal as a creator? And then just talk a little bit about how social media plays into that.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, as a long-term creator, my goal is really just to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not necessarily interested in, I mean, I would love to do this full time, don't get me wrong, but with my health the way it is, and with health with health care the way that it is, and it's just probably isn't a realistic expectation to be able to do this full time. And that's okay with me. I know, and I think it's awesome that a lot of people's goals are to do this full time, and it is a realistic goal for them. But I'm actually really content with the situation that I have, and really I just love telling stories. So my long-term goal is just to keep doing this, to be able to grow in my fan base, to be able to grow in my readership, and to be able to collaborate with more folks that I trust and that I enjoy being around. And yeah, I mean, so and really, what social media has done quite a bit for my career so far in creating comics and broadcasting. It's, I mean, my goodness, social media is everything in broadcasting for sure. But it's I have found it is the best tool to use in regards to interacting with people, to actually, like, because you can make real communities online in social media. You can also suffer from fake communities online, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. So there's a good and a bad side to this, but for me personally, I have experienced much more good than bad. And social media has really helped me amp up on my Kickstarter campaigns. Really helped me a lot in just kind of, I mean, my goodness, I've said it time and time again. I found the Rising Tide Network through social media. I would not be here doing this show on this network. I wouldn't be doing stuff with with the Comic Book Spectrum guys, and I would not be I wouldn't have some real meaningful relationships that I have now if it weren't for social media. So, personally and professionally, social media has been a blessing in my life, really. It's also been a huge headache, and again, we'll get into that later. But yeah, overall, it's been a more positive than negative experience.
What are the specific types of social media that you use?
Primarily Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, I haven't found a lot of traction. I know a lot of people do, and that's great. Most of my traction I have found in Facebook and Instagram, starting to a little bit in TikTok. And eventually next year I plan on getting into more of the Twitch game. A little bit. I'm starting to get a little traction on TikTok, so I want to focus on that. But yeah, primarily Facebook, mostly.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into more details about how you use social media a little bit later, but let's ask Damien, give us a brief summary of your creative, what your ultimate long-term goal is, and how social media works out for you.
Well, currently, and literally 5 minutes before the show started, I'm working on toy making with O Toys. I'm also decided that if I'm going to make anything out of the comics that I've made, I need to start and get that ball going. So I am all of next year is going to be the year of Realmer X. I'm going to do, well, I've 4 books planned. I have multiple people that are helping me work on them. It's going to be a quarterly book. Beyond that, I'm really, like I said, really been focusing on the toys. We're going to have good stuff coming in the next year. Everything's planned for 3 3-month intervals each quarter. We're going to do something a little bigger. I guess I'll just say it. We're going to move into the sort of action figure of the month club type situation where we've got a unique style that we're going to do it in. And it's going to be much more interactive than just you're buying a piece of something. You know, it's going to be create a community based around these toys and these ideas. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's really awesome. Cool. And so what is your long-term or ultimate goal as a creator? At the end of your life, on the day of your death, when you look back at your life as a creator, what will you hope to have accomplished?
So intense.
Yes, that's how I am, man.
My gosh.
My wife can't handle it.
Personally and professionally being 2 different things. Personally, if I could have one kid walk up to me with one of my books rolled up in their back pocket and just say, "Hey, thank you for writing this story or making this, making this thing, putting this idea out there. It's made me spark ideas and made me want to do my own thing. If you could do it, I could do it. If I could just get that, then I'd be set, person. Yeah. Professionally, I would like to at least be able to pay my mortgage every month with doing this.
Nice.
I'm not going to lie. It's not even just a making money situation. It's just that I'd like to pay a big bill every month and have said that is how I bought my house. That's how I paid off my car. That's how I've, with the sweat of my own brow. Because I come from it twofold. I come in as an art, but it's also a craft. And it's something you make with your hands as much as you make with your mind. And if I can say that, then I've done well, and maybe left something for my son and my grandson and my family. For sure.
And so, what role does social media play for you in all of that?
Initially, back in like 97 or 8, did a lot of message boards, just talking to people. Met a lot of people who, have even faded in and then faded out of the industry that I'm in, and really have never gotten the hang of social media. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd love to say, oh, I do all this. It hasn't been until recently where I have had examples like Brian and other people that have used it in a way that has made sense, like that to me, not just even to spread the word, but like you're saying, I found the Rising Tide Network through Brian. Yeah, he was like, "Hey, you need to watch this stuff. Hey, and he'd post things." And finally, one day, I was just like, "Fine, I'll watch it." And then
I
it
was
was
your
great.
pusher.
You really were. It was great. Thank you, because finally it clicked, and I was able to find my people, find my tribe, and I want to use social media in that way going forward. Like this next year, I have so much stuff coming up. I want to build a community around it. I don't want to just push my product. I want people to, enjoy being into what I'm doing, as well as, maybe buying it. Give me a little money.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, good. I'll share.
What about you, Chad?
Yeah, I'll share a few things. It's so funny.
And then we have to go to the comments because we have a ton.
Oh, I can't wait. So it's funny that you made the comment about me being intense, because my wife and I often talk about that, because she's very much, and this is not a shot at her at all, but she's very much like rainbows and butterflies, like, oh, that life is great and everything. And I literally am always thinking about like the significance of my life. And I think about like, if I were to die today, did I live the life I should have lived? Like, seriously, I think about that all the time. It's crazy. It's probably too much, but
maybe you could chill out a little bit.
I probably do. Yes, I probably do need to chill it out just a little bit. But anyways, to answer the questions, so my main project is The Silence, which is a comic book series, a sci-fi comic book story. Just finished with number 2 and starting to work on number 3. I also do freelance on the side, and I have a pretty big project that I'm working a proposal for right now that should be giving me a big chunk of work for next year. And then I also have personal projects, just some more on the fine art side of things. Like I guess you could say, there's a mural I'm working on, some other abstract art projects, and some writing and things like that that I do as well. As far as and then of course, as Brian mentioned, I'm part of this podcast and that kind of thing. As far as my ultimate or long-term goal, the way I look at art has changed over the years, but the two things I kind of shoot for is, number one is that I'm drawing and creating art for my grandkids. And the reason why I say that is because I used to think in terms of like business success, like I'm drawing things to get noticed, so then people will buy it, and then I'll be a successful artist. But I'm seeing more. It helps me be more mentally healthy when I think of drawing in terms of my family and people that I love and know, rather than a crowd of people I don't know and I don't want to say I don't care about, but I don't really have a connection with. So I think about that. And then the other thing I think about is I want to create art that is museum worthy. And I don't say that like in a braggy way. I mean that in a sense of like, I don't want to create art that's just commercially successful. I want it to be the kind of art that someone looks at and is like, it like affects them. Like it's something that's beautiful. So I want to create something that contributes to the beauty of the world instead of just something that you can make money off of, or it's just like superficial or that kind of thing. So shut up. I hate you. I hate you. I'm sitting
I
here.
love how you said in
sharing.
the humblest way, I want to be an exhibit in an art museum.
That's not what I said. Jerk. I'm saying it's different to create art that way than it is to create just put it out there for someone to buy and, a commercial thing, kind of thing like that. So, like I think of like, when you think of like paint, like I love going to a museum and looking at art on the wall because of what it does to you when you look at it. Like it profoundly moves you, and that's the kind of art that I want to create. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that, but that's definitely my goal. So, and as far as social media, that has changed for me over the years too, which is a big reason why I want to do this show, because I have a real love-hate relationship with social media. I mean, obviously we're on social media right now, and so it is definitely a tool that I use, but my interaction with it has changed over the years to where there were times in my life where it was like I was posting like multiple times a day. I was really trying to like promote myself and get my name out there and want to get noticed, to now where I've really kind of toned that down a lot. And so I'm very interested to see and interact with you guys about social media, because it seems to me like, Brian, you have a very positive, like healthy interaction with social media that I think I could really benefit from, because I tend to get, it's part of my personality, I tend to get more on the melancholy or like pessimistic side of things. So it's always good to have people like you.
You're my sweet melancholy Dane. I love you.
Yeah, it's good to have people like you in my life to balance me out, and my wife does that for me too. So anyhow, that's my long form answer. So
all right, well, let's jump into some comments, because good grief, here they come. Donna has slipped into her comfy chair with some Coke and popcorn and says this ought to be good. Carl saying, hey everyone, Donna is scolding him, and they're going back and forth in an epic and wonderful way. And here we go, Sarah, how you doing? Glad you're here. Looking forward to your thoughts on what we talk about tonight. And there he is, our fearless leader, Brian K. Morris. Hey everyone. Hey Carl, you're right on time. Oh, he contradicted Donna. Watch out, Brian. Everybody's saying hi to each other, and hi there, guys. Hello. And yeah, here we go. That was definitely not dastardly. I think that was perhaps
Probably my
referring to your intro. Yeah, your sad intro. And, here we go. There's a nice little thing. Carl is saying your beard is coming in nicely. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me say one thing about that. So I always had the goal that the more hair I lost on the top of my head, the more I would grow on the bottom of my head. But I couldn't do it because I was working in restaurants, and now I'm out of restaurants. So I'm planning to really grow it out. I don't know if I'll be able to be Brian worthy, but it's definitely gonna.
You know, here let me give you full screen really quick. Let's analyze this for just a second. Here you go. Lean in close for me, Chadwick. Look at that. Actually, sir, I think you have the potential to grow one out. I really think like I'm not blowing smoke here. I really do. I think you have, because some don't, right? Like some types of beards are kind of patchy, and yes, the sadness down there. Yeah, Damien, look at that.
It's not my fault.
We talked about this last week. Fault. Yeah, his parents.
And I had to shave because the Fu Manchu was killing me.
I was very sad. I was very, very sad that the Fu Manchu went away.
I left most of it. I left in honor of the program. I have left.
Exactly. If you shave your face fully, I'm just gonna have to kick you off. And Carl says, looked like there was a mutiny about to occur. Don't you worry, Carl. I took care of that real quick. I took control. Not really. I'm not in control of anything. Jody McPhee says, now I am afraid to be on this show because I hate doing interviews. That's right. Everyone should be afraid to be on the show. Not really. Everyone continues to say hi to each other and oh, good grief. Joe, it's coming. It'll be there in 2022, man. At some point, you will have it in your hands. And here we go. I think social media can be a little of both. Depends on how you use it. I agree. John Celestri, hey man, how you doing? Says I'm doing my comic full time because I'm an old guy in retirement. Yes, nice. You do your thing, buddy. That's awesome. And Brian, and I do my job full time because no one else will hire me. Oh, except publishers and editors, and we all know how shady they are. Carl says social media helped me find the show tonight, so that's a positive right there. And here we go. Rick Bradley says that he'd hire you, Brian.
That's so sweet.
That's so sweet. And Brian says, "Be careful what you wish for," and that is probably yeah. So let's see. Some scrolling. We're gonna have to skip a couple. Rick Bradley says, I normally miss the show, but tonight I was donating plasma and watching Titus on YouTube. And a reminder. Oh yes, there you go.
There it is. Awesome.
Wonderful. We're glad that you're here, sir. Yes, please don't text and drive. That's a bad idea. And Ted Davies knows what's up. Ted Davies, how we doing, buddy? How you doing? John Celestri says social media has enabled my reputation to spread, making people aware of the work I did that affected their childhoods. That is actually very true because I'm one of them. So is Damien. I got to know John when through social media when we were both on JD's show, and I met John and we've become friends ever since. So let's see, Brian. Sarah says, I'm uncertain about social media, liking this convo for various thoughts. Yeah, that it's an uncertain thing. It's an uncertain place. Yeah. In very many ways, it depends on what you make it and how others interact with you. And sometimes you can't always control that. It can be a shady place for sure. Brian says, Ted, paint a picture with words. Why don't you? And there we go. The final word on the beard. Brian says, I can't grow a decent ZZ Top style beard, but sideburns, I've got your chops, sir, are epic in nature.
They are epic.
So that's all the comments we have for now.
Tales should be told.
Awesome. So Chad, why don't you take it away for us, buddy?
Okay, so in the second part of the show, I submitted to our fabulous hosts, Brian and Damien, a list of quotes about social media. Now these were not taken from any kind of like academic papers or anything. They literally were from Google quotes. And so I can't really vouch for whether they're accurate, but they all really interesting. And I think will lead to some good discussion. So what I want to do, instead of reading all the quotes, I've asked each person to pick one or two quotes and just to discuss their thoughts on it and just kind of have an open forum discussion about social media. So Damien, why don't you go first with your first quote? And go ahead and read the quote, obviously, because no one can see it. So.
The quote that stuck out to me the most, like all technology, social media is neutral, but is best put to work in the service of building a better world. To me, the thing that's going to save the human race is community. That's beyond ideologies or religions. I think if we don't get together and start working on the world together, we're I'm sorry to be so like dark about it, but it's a big thing for me. So I think we've seen so many examples of social media, especially in the last decade, bring together people that didn't have voices, that didn't have a way to communicate, couldn't communicate in public, couldn't communicate in their, just day-to-day society because of, different restrictions of various types, political, social, and found each other and were able to build something from that. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's what I think social media's ultimate purpose should be. Whether that, is its ultimate purpose is, up to the individual, but
yeah,
that's why I picked that up.
Nice. Okay. Very good. So I was looking at that one as well. And so let me throw a couple questions at you and see what you say about this. But I agree with you. I think social media can be a tool to do that, to build a better world through community. What do you think that looks like? Because I think a lot of people would push back and say, well, social media for them has really been divisive. And so in what way do you see social media being a tool to build community?
I think if the thrust of the idea is to listen, to rebuild the idea of listening to people, letting them speak, holding judgment till you've heard their words, then, going from that standpoint, rather than just reaction, which is what I don't even go on. I get alerts from Twitter, but I don't even read Twitter. Everything, even from people like when you get an email that says Marina Sirtis, Counselor Troy from Star Trek is angry at somebody, it's time to just turn off Twitter. It's like, I'm sorry, but it's I guess I'm missing the point. I feel that if we could relearn the ability to listen to each other, and I think social media could be a platform for that, is building that back up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think too, to go along with that is growing in the ability to appreciate nuance. I think sometimes with social media, there's such it's so quick, it's like you just putting sound bites out, and it's very difficult to have a complex conversation through sound bites. And you miss a lot the ability to have nuance. And I think nuance is very helpful to understand where someone's coming from. And I that's where I get so frustrated with conversations about like politics or big social issues and things like that, where someone will just be like, well, I disagree with this person, therefore they're entirely wrong.
Exactly.
When you understand how nuance works, you can actually agree with some things that someone you may, as a general principle, disagree with, but you may be able to see parts of their point of view and agree with that. And that can build community to where you can have real interaction with someone. But I think the danger of social media is that it has a tendency to take that away, and it also is built on or is successful because of negative comments. Because a lot of times when people put negative things out, it immediately gets reaction, and it's kind of built on that. The algorithm feeds off that. So it's definitely a challenge, and I would definitely agree with you that there is the opportunity to build community through good communication. It's just that it takes being very intentional to do that, I think. So.
And I think that's where the struggle is going to be. I think as we continue to grow as a society with social media, the cult of celebrity is so ingrained into it that you get that falseness as a constant in that social media world. And so I think the lack of nuance is legitimate in the sense that there are so many people that use it as just look at how cool I am. It's all, there's a fakeness built in because you have that screen between you, that space between you and the other person. Mm-hmm. So I think I don't know if it's I don't even know if I think I'm sort of countering my own argument with why it's not possible, but I think it would take a leap or even a new platform with a more open take to even get to that point.
Yes. I'm glad you said that.
It's really what keeps me off social media. Like I realize I need to promote myself, but for me, that divide between promotion and personal gets blurred. In that same venue. So sorry, I didn't catch you.
No, you're good. I think that's the thing about social media. And even with these quotes that I selected, I tried to do one that was critical and one that was positive, like one after the other with all these quotes, because it's such a, as one of the quotes says, a double-edged sword. Like on one side, there is the opportunity for such potential to grow community, but it tends to be successful in not growing, in kind of dividing people. And so it's just this weird thing where on one side, I think all of us would agree, yeah, this is a great tool. But on the other side, there's so many pitfalls of it. It's really difficult. And so we find ourselves in these conversations where it's almost like we're speaking out of two sides of our mouth. Like on one side, we're like, yes, I love social media. And then the other time you're like, man, I hate this about this. And that's why I don't agree. That's why I don't get on social media. I find the same thing myself. And we'll talk about this more here in a little bit, but there's such potential to bypass the gatekeepers and put your voice out there and be seen by anyone. But then on the other end, there's so many pitfalls of it that it's really difficult. And I think the other thing you said that was really important in this quote, it says social media is neutral. That was the part that I really had a hard time with because, and like you said, there needs to be another platform because each platform has its own agenda. And so it's not so neutral when you're on a Facebook. It's not neutral when you're on Instagram because they have set up the algorithm in such a way to get their goals met. And so it's not neutral, but social media as a whole is neutral because social media is not just Facebook. It's not just Instagram. It's all these different platforms that people can get involved with. So it's important to remember that distinction as well, that when you say social media, you don't just automatically say Facebook. That's, in my mind, that's what I tend to do. But social media is much bigger than that because you obviously have YouTube and TikTok and on and on and on. So awesome. All right. Any other thoughts on that quote?
No, I think you've touched on most of my other thoughts about it.
Great. Brian, do you have a quote that you want to share?
I do. I think the first one is one that you mentioned already. It says social media is something of a double-edged sword. At its best, social media offers unprecedented opportunities for marginalized people to speak and bring much needed attention to the issues they face. At its worst, social media also offers everyone an unprecedented opportunity to share in collective outrage without reflection. So earlier, I mentioned that social media is essentially what you make it. And it can also backfire on you, because that's life. In every single aspect of life, when there is people coming together in droves, you're going to have positive and negative effects. That no matter where you go, no matter what the platform is, be it social media, be it a in-person social club, be it church, be it going to the grocery store. I mean, you do anything where that is public, where people can come to and especially share their opinions, share their beliefs. Um, it can be it can be a blessing and it can be a curse at the same time. I think you just take a step back from social media and think of technology in the last 100 years. So many people, I've heard both sides, so many people, technology has been such a blessing. It has. It's done amazing things. It has kept people alive longer. It has, allowed us to fly to different countries within a short amount of time. It is doing amazing things. Technology has also been behind terrible things, terrible catastrophes. It's been used for bullying. It's been used for death. It's been used for so many awful things. So no matter what in this world right now where we are, everything is broken. So it's not necessarily the thing. It's not the system. It's the people. People can either make it something good or they can make it something terrible. And no matter what you're looking at across the board, fill in the blank, that's the way it's going to be. And so when social media comes along and we say, oh, well, there could be another platform for this. Well, eventually, like big thing, TikTok for the longest time was known as a more positive social media app, because a lot of times, you can really just kind of scroll through and see happy videos and all these things. And that's what, other social media has been in the past. Now TikTok is starting to get salty. Now it's starting to get a little more spicy, right? Because people are starting to show up more and share their opinions and argue, and it's because it's not the platform, even though there are algorithms and things to take into effect for sure. I agree with what you guys said about that, but as a thing, it can be used as a tool for good or bad. And as from my own personal experience, I have experienced both. I've experienced some very great things about social media and some pretty terrible things about social media. And I have through kind of just muscling through the terrible times and terrible experiences in social media. I have learned how to not come across those as often, because Facebook, for example, you're allowed to unfollow people, you're allowed to block people, you're allowed to, as best you can, construct your news feed to where you're not always just seeing the people who are ranting and raving. You're not just always seeing, the news that's trying to convince you that the world is ending this afternoon. Like you like right now, if I were to scroll through my Facebook feed, I would see goofy, silly memes, stuff regarding my faith, and comic books. That is the majority of my feed. Um, I've constructed it that way to where it is a more positive experience for me. And if I want to know some other things, like if I want, like I follow certain news stations, certain news pages, things like that. And if I want to find out what's going on in current events, I can go there, but it's not forced upon me. And I think that's very healthy to do, because if you don't do that, if you don't construct your news feed, and if you don't take control of it as best you can, then it's going to bombard you. It's going to overwhelm you. It's going to bring you mentally and emotionally and spiritually into a place where it's all gloom and doom all the time. But really, if we utilize this tool in a positive way, we can construct it, vet the people that we interact with, and really do realize that sometimes Facebook friends are real friends. sometimes Facebook friends aren't people we even know at all. And we need to realize that we need to get to a place where it's okay where you haven't talked to this person for 10 years and they only show up to say negative things on your posts occasionally, and that's all it's okay to let them go. Because guess what? You're never going to see them in person because you haven't in the last 10 years anyway. You know what I mean? And so it's things like that, lessons like that are solid ways that I have found that really allow me to curate my social media feed to where I can then turn around and focus on promoting my work. Thinking through, inviting certain people into some thoughts that I have about life and about God and about whatever. And I can make my social media experience what I want it to be because there's a freedom to.
Oh, he's frozen in time. There,
I have returned.
maybe I'm frozen in time.
Oh,
there
hey,
you are.
we kind of did the spinning wheel of death. But yeah, that's my thought on that quote. Because I really do think that social media can be a blessing, given the circumstance, but I think it can also turn around and be absolutely a curse.
So, first of all, I just want to say that was an awesome answer because as I've said before, I tend to be more on the pessimistic side. I'm sorry, that's just my personality, I guess, but something I've struggled with my whole life. And so what you had to say, it was really refreshing. I'll be honest with you. I know I give you a hard time, but that was really refreshing because I see myself as interacting with social media, not as a victim, but as someone like, I feel like it's this huge thing I can't control. And so I'm constantly seeing things that are just like not helpful for me. And so to hear the way that you were saying to approach it in a more constructive way was really helpful and practical. And I really appreciate that. Let me play devil's advocate a little bit.
Okay.
What do you do though with the person that does what you're saying, but constructs social media in a way it's just affirming their particular worldview? So in other words, what about the person that gets on there and just constructs it so they just hear all the things they want to hear and never gets any challenge or any pushback? So I'll give you a neutral example of people I particular person I'm thinking of, people I know that get their information from Facebook, but it's information that they've constructed, like you're saying, that's only feeding a false narrative that they're believing. And so it's just puts this fuel on this fire of, I believe this thing because I saw it in the media, whether social media got posted or whatever, because it's only that viewpoint that they want is being filtered to them. So how would you personally, like, how do you counter that? Like, how do you bring balance to that?
I mean, I don't know that, and I don't mean to I don't mean to sound like oversimplify this, but I don't think it's our job to do that. I don't think it's our job to counter that or challenge it. I mean, people are going to do that regardless of whether or not they're on social media. I mean, I knew people before social media was a thing, or people that aren't on social media, they still do that. They buy magazines, they watch news stations that are absolutely tailored to their worldview. They only hang out with people that agree with them. And they villainize everyone else around them. And so, and that doesn't have anything to do with social media. That has everything to do with the person. And if you find a person like that, I don't know. I mean, it's up to you to say, hey, do you want to be around them or not? Do you want to maybe be in their life and lovingly push them as far as they'll let you? Or is that a waste of your time? Will your time be better served somewhere else where someone's going to receive your pushback in a better way, in a more constructive way? We can't control what other people do. And we can only do what we're in control of, and we can help each other and be in each other's lives as much as we will allow the other person to be. And that's all you can do. Because there was a time where I got really stressed about this kind of stuff, right? I was like, oh my gosh, this person isn't listening. This person is just doing this and it's stupid. Let them do it. that they will, you can only go so far with somebody. And there are times where you just shouldn't even worry about it. They're going to go and they're going to do their thing. And the energy that you would just completely use to worry about how to fix this problem, use that energy over here where there's something that you can actually do that's constructive.
That's good. That's good. Let me ask two questions. One is a social media related, what we're talking about, and then one's an art related question. So the first one is, you were talking about, if there's someone on your Facebook or social media thing that you don't particularly agree with, you can just block them or defriend them or whatever. And I'll just put my cards on the table and say how much I despise cancel culture.
Yeah.
And aren't we, though, contributing to that kind of cancel culture on a personal level by just blocking people we don't agree with?
Well, I think, no, I don't think we are. Mostly because cancel culture is a society-based thing. So cancel culture is everyone is getting together and saying this person isn't allowed to be in public with us anymore. Blocking somebody on Facebook is simply saying, I don't think we need to be around each other right now. And that's not canceling the person. That's not trying to get the person fired. That's not trying to make sure the person is essentially just destroyed socially. And the how dare they ever show their face around public appearances anymore. That's not the same thing. I would say cancel culture is very much doing those things, is making sure that person cannot come out of their hole that we have thrown them in because, screw everything that they've ever done. That's the attitude of cancel culture, and that's not the same thing as blocking somebody. I do think there needs to be a bit of maturity in understanding the difference between unfollowing somebody, unfriending somebody, and blocking somebody. Obviously, if someone is sending you awful things through Messenger, if they're bullying you, if they're harassing you sexually, whatever, that's an immediate block. Don't even flirt with, anything else. It is an immediate block. They're crossing all the boundaries. But I've had people that, they're family friends, or they're genuinely people that I don't talk to ever, but I do want to keep up with. And they post some really dumb things that I don't agree with at all, that I don't think are helpful. So I just unfollow them because I still want to be able to check in on them. We talk maybe occasionally. I do care about them. I don't want to completely just not have them in my life. And then there are people that, hey, I like this saying is I don't. I want you to still be able to eat, just not at the same table as me. And the outlook on that would be the unfriending, right? Is you don't wish this person any ill will. You still want them to, thrive and live well. But you guys don't need to be together. We don't need to do this thing together. We don't need to live life together. No hard feelings. We just don't mesh. And that's an unfriending kind of thing,
Sure.
So yeah, I think there's some discernment that comes along with these decisions that you're not always going to get right. I know I don't always get it right. I've failed many, many times in these situations, but you learn from them and you try your best to move forward and make better decisions in the future.
Nice. That's awesome. I like the way that you nuanced that. There you go.
Thank you. Really quick. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead. I was going to say we need to jump into some comments again really quick. But
okay, let me ask one more question, and we'll do the comments. My art-based question is, as creators, do you feel like social media is a helpful platform to experience art? And what I mean by that is, when you see art on, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever, you have a tendency to just kind of flip through things very quickly. And when you consider that the artwork that you look at, whether you like it or not, or whether it's complex or simple or whatever, someone spent like hours and hours and hours of time creating this artwork. And we have a tendency to just kind of flip through very quickly the ones that we like or don't like.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if that is, I know sounds weird, but honoring to that artist to view art that way through social media. And I would love to hear both of your thoughts on maybe maybe after we do let's look at some comments, but after the comments, let's discuss that. What is social media a helpful way to view and interact with art? So
ooh, I like that. All right, so let me try and find my place. There's been a bit of a comment dump. Okay, here we go. From the desk of a small press publisher says social media is a necessary evil. I think it is not curated enough to provide precise experiences for all, but you have to use what tools you have to make people comfortable with you and your products. And I agree. I think there's a lot. I think it has a lot to do with curating. I really, really do. Ted says, actually, I like Damien's viewpoint. Let's go with that. Let's build a commune. I mean, a community. Ted says, but it's true. We need to be a community and help. And we do. And he says, intently listening is so important. And it is. Yeah. And that's where I go back to, like, not everybody's mindset is there. Not everybody cares enough to listen. You know what I mean? So we're just going to have to find the people that want to do that and interact with them, and not necessarily, not necessarily shun the people that don't. Like, I have a 3-strike rule when I friend somebody that I don't really know, because I friend a lot of artists on Facebook. I want to focus on that. I love seeing everyone's different styles and stuff, right? And so for me, it's okay. Strike 1, you say something dumb, whatever. Strike 2, you continue to do so. Like, it's just different from everybody. So if you find yourself in a crowd that doesn't listen to you, that doesn't value your worth, then don't be around them anymore. Sometimes that's easier said than done. Joe D says that's part of the problem. Community does not allow for free exchange due to standards. Said standards can lead to unreasonable expectations and offense by those who engage in said community. And that can be said for any setting, not just social media. That's everywhere. Sarah says that's why the news focuses on negative things. It sells widely. Unfortunately, it really does. Negativity spreads for sure. Carl says, could the same thing have been said when Gutenberg invented the printing press? Very good point. All of a sudden, communication was changed and expanded. And I think to a point, yeah. I mean, with every new type of technology, especially when it comes to communication, there's always going to be, good and bad.
And I think, to his point, to what you were saying, Brian, I think every time something new comes out, there's always people who push back and are hesitant with it. I think it's just, I feel like the crotchety old man, because when I look at like social media, and especially with like metaverse that's coming out and virtual reality that's in the future, I just have some concerns that's different than I think with television and radio and things like that. Like, there's something about social media and virtual reality that messes with your understanding of an experience of community and the real world that those other mediums didn't have. And so there comes a point at which with any technology, it can go too far, or it can be turned in a way that's not helpful. But to your point, Brian, with anything, whether it's atomic energy or television or whatever, it can be used for good and it can be used for evil. So you could look at something like virtual reality or the metaverse or whatever, and you could say, yeah, but that's going to give people an opportunity to experience something that maybe they couldn't. Maybe they were paralyzed and they're not able to go visit somewhere that they've always wanted to, and this virtual reality will let them do that. Yeah. But then on the other side, there's the danger of those that will get so disconnected from reality they forget what community is too. So yeah, I think Carl is absolutely right, and I think you guys are absolutely, the comments that we said before is so true, that technology in itself is neutral. It's the way that we interact with it for sure.
I think you also have to keep one foot in the real world and one foot in the virtual world.
Yeah.
You have to consciously make that decision.
Yeah.
Because, it like you said, the technology is just going to advance. And if you're not standing with a firm footing, on various, issues involving both of those things, then you're going to just be like swept away.
Yeah, and to that point, Sarah says exactly. She just has to block people at times, and unplugging is necessary sometimes too. Even if it's important for a career, unplugging for maybe 30 minutes. My goodness, please unplug for more than 30 minutes. Is to use the mindfulness skills of surroundings. Yeah, I mean, really, what Damien, kind of brought us into here with this topic, unplugging is huge. Get off social media, get off your television, get off every device, read a book, sip some coffee outside, go on a walk. These things are very important to the soul. It's not just, it's not just feel good. It's not just, it's not just taking a break mentally. It's, this world that we live in, we're here with it to interact with it. Not to just cut it down and shun it and go to the virtual world. We need to be out in nature and walk around in trails and do that as much as you possibly can. Interact with other humans. Oh my gosh, as awful as that can be sometimes, it's absolutely necessary because we still live in this world. Like you said, we need to have one foot here because this is the real world. And a virtual world is also very important, and I think it can have very real effects that linger. But at the end of the day, when you unplug, it brings some rest to your body and to your mind. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have some things to share about that, but I'll wait to the end.
Yeah, no, you're good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Jody says again, you can you truly curate if you don't control the algorithm? You can block people who try to engage with you, but you can't stop the algorithm from sending unwanted items to your feed. I think curating is an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done. Curating is as you go, and my experience, for the most part, yes, I say you can truly curate. Now, yeah, there are days where it's more difficult than others. But that's, if you're gonna be active, if you're going to be in social media, and you care about what comes across your feed, then it is, and it's not. I don't find it overwhelming to do that, but it is something that is a bit of a chore. If you're gonna do it, you kind of have to keep up with it, just like your house, right? You got to do the dishes, you got to put a little work into it, or it's going to overwhelm you. As much as I hate dishes. And Braxton says, "Hello, hula, holy dingus! I finally get to see the live for once. What's up, man? Glad you're here." And Sarah says, 100% Chad. Cherry picking can be used for good and bad too. And 100% Robin Rabbit. Thank you, Sarah. Carl says, Chad, I'm OCD, and one night I realized that I could not fix the world. Had a good cry, then went on with my life, and I feel much better in life now. Yeah, and Sarah agrees. Braxton said, cancel culture is a joke because it's hilarious, making the person they are trying to cancel much more popular. It's a weird way of steering. Yes, you're right. It really is. I get the point. Like, you want people to feel consequences. I understand that, and I have been there too. I want people to feel consequences. But that's a little extreme. That's a lot extreme, actually. And Carl says, Sarah, I can only control Carl, and sometimes not even that. Amen, sir. I feel you on a spiritual level there. Ted says, this is a great topic, gentlemen. Very good choice. Thank you. This was Chad. This was all awesome. Chad. Well done, Chad. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Appreciate
That's
it.
the only compliment I'm giving you. Braxton says brain. That's a great metaphor, dude. I don't remember what it was, but thank you. Yes, Jody agrees. Well said, Carl. Live every day trying to control me. That is very, very true. Carl just broke up with me. Oh goodness. Sarah says I have to immediately block. No doubt. I learned the hard way that only unfriending has had the tendency for negative messaging. That's why I block when necessary. Yeah, unfortunately, people can be really ruthless and just really mean. Carl says Chad's comment on viewing art. That's how I work in museums. Look at something for 5 minutes. Nope, don't like it. Move on. So it's not just social media. That's well, I have more to say on that in a minute. Sarah says I'm not sure if I'm reading that right. It's not fully either's problem. I think what you're. Yeah, I think I agree, Sarah. Sorry, I don't think I understood that. Braxton says social media is a helpful place, but as an artist, oftentimes it seems like artists forget that it's a part of the job and only use it as a means to inspire themselves rather than to use it to promote their art. He goes on to say, I say dumb shit all the time. How have I not been put in the social media prison? I don't know. I'm not sure how half of us haven't actually been. I've never been to Facebook jail. And I know people that are in Facebook jail weekly. And I'm like, how? I don't understand like what the difference is between things that they say and things that I say. Braxton says, I think and feel social media is a tool that is misused, just like the phones we have in our pocket. I would agree with that in many ways. Rick Bradley says, "Oh crap! 3 strikes for saying dumb stuff. How are we still friends?" I like your dumb stuff. Don't worry, Rick.
Dumb is subjective.
And Braxton agrees. There we go. Read a book, specifically Brian Robbins.
Oh, please.
Oh, look at that, Chad.
Whatever.
I was gonna mention your book, Chad, but not anymore. So everybody go read Damien's Realmer 1 book. Really quick, Damien. Do a little pitch. Just for you, buddy. Go for it. Tell us what it's all about.
There it is.
Realmer X is about a young boy searching through the infinite worlds of the Omniverse for his family. And hijinks ensue. Good times are had.
Excellent. Where can we find this work?
Right now, you can find it. Actually, you can find the first part of the crossover on Amazon. And everything else is on my store, Omniversal Inc. At Big Cartel. So you can get everything you want there.
There you go. Boom.
Nice.
Chad, you don't get that treatment because you're mean to me.
It's fine. Hey, I'm drawing for my kids.
Actually, I'm excited. I'm excited about The Silence too, honestly. When's that coming out? When we get that?
You have a copy, you weirdo.
I have a digital copy. That's not the same thing. I want the hardback in my hands.
I actually talked to them this week, and they finally got the proofs right, and they're going to send me a physical proof just so I can give one last check, and then it'll be printed. So I was hoping to get it out by Christmas, but it'll be January. So,
Sarah says something interesting. I saw 4 girls sitting on a bench at U of I together, and all 4 on their phones and not talking to each other. That was eye-opening. Several years ago. Interesting thought on that. I have seen a little pushback on social media of all places, where it doesn't have to be phones, newspapers, magazines. I think it's not so much phones, even though phones encourage it a little bit more, because there's a lot more information. If you want to completely block everyone out, you'll find a way. You don't need phone and social media to do it. People did it for thousands of years before phones came around. But I've also you don't know what they're doing. You're fine. You don't know what they're doing on their phones because no joke, a lot of people will sit right next to each other and text each other. Happens all the time.
Yes.
I've done it. Just because it can be fun sometimes.
sometimes my wife and I will sit there and she'll be on Pinterest showing me things, and I'll be on
Yeah,
something else showing her stuff. And like, we're actually communicating, but we're doing our own thing and then sharing what we're doing. So
Robin and I do that all the time. We'll be scrolling through TikTok and we'll show each other stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So
Lauren is constantly blowing up my phone with TikTok.
And the bad thing about like seeing because I don't me wrong, Sarah, I have felt and said and thought the same exact thing that you just typed. But I think it's almost like, and sometimes that can be absolutely true. But I do also think a lot of times people just enjoy sitting next to each other and doing their own things. And that's a way of being together. So I've struggled with judging that behavior before as well, but I've kind of learned not to jump to conclusions immediately. Nick Talkert says, what is the statute of limitations on dumb things said online or in general? I have no idea.
With the internet.
And according to some people, Facebook goes back years. That's not happened to me before, but I have seen it actually happen to other people. Sarah definitely realized how it can be a slippery slope. Yes, absolutely. At least on social media, says Rick Bradley, people can see art. So maybe a few seconds to look at a piece of art is more than someone would normally get. And that is a good point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It is. From the desk of a small plush fall, I cannot say that. Jody McPhee says, right now I am happy I didn't say any dumb stuff, especially on this topic. Don't worry, you're safe, buddy. And Braxton wants to know when he's getting the dingus treatment. He wants to jaw jab about stuff. You'll be on soon, buddy. I promise. And the metaphor I was talking about, Brian, was eating at the table. Oh, cool. Yeah. That's a saying. I didn't come up with that at all. I don't remember where I heard it, but it stuck with me. I like that idea. Because it's just, you don't wish ill will on anybody, but you don't want to be around them either. And that's okay. It's fine. And Carl said he used to block people out rocks. That's old school. Donna says Carl and I text each other all the time, but then we live in a castle and both are going deaf. Braxton says I'm generally a socially awkward, loud human being. No, you're not. Stop that. So being stuck in my phone helps other people. Take that away. Sarah said there was a guy who came into the health clinic with a full gaming system he was using while waiting to be called back to be seen. That's epic.
That's awesome.
That's determination to gaming right there, man.
My son would love that.
That's a social commentary all its own, but just face value, I'm impressed. Nick Talkert says, I think we also need to break down platforms on social media, especially how anonymous it is. People who have no skin in the game engage differently. And he has more to say that has not popped up yet. We'll come back to that when you finish that, Nick. Okay, Chad. So restate your question really quick. It's been
so I wanted you guys to engage with what it's like to experience art on social media, whether, every piece of art, whether you like it or not, has been, the artist has spent hours and put their heart into this piece. And yet we tend to just kind of scan through it. And I just wonder if that's the most appropriate way. And then also, and this wasn't part of the first question, but there can tend to be a overconsumption of art. And is that good or bad? I'd love to hear your all's thoughts on that.
Damien, you want to go first?
Yeah. When I specifically make a point of when I'm going to go look at other people's artwork, I had to have time to go through it, because I'm been on the receiving end of, the scroll. So I always make a point of really going out of my way. And I think people need to make a point when you're going to be looking at artwork to give that extra time, to give that little bit of extra respect, whether you make art or not, because it's someone made this to be seen. And that 5 seconds, some people can perceive it in that manner, but I think to really get what someone's saying, whether it's a comic page, a panel, a piece of fine art, museum, images. It's the same thing. Take the time, scroll through, look at things, enjoy them. Take the time. Because otherwise, what's the point? You're kind of rushing through, and you're not getting that engagement time.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Go ahead.
Nope, you.
Okay. I agree. I think that I like what Rick Bradley said. That I think people are more. Art is readily available more on social media, especially Instagram, than it would be in any regular walk of life. Because you think about, like, you'd have to go to a comic book store, you'd have to go to an art museum, you'd have to go to an exhibit, to get in the mindset a lot of times to appreciate what's in front of you. And it drives me so crazy. And I tell this to Robin all the time. Give her a comic to read, and she'll be done in 10 minutes. And I'm just like, look at the art. Appreciate it. And so I think, my comic book mind, you're sitting there reading a comic, and you have people that read comics that just really focus on the dialogue, and the images are kind of background. And a lot of people read comics that way. Whereas for me, I focus on the artwork usually first, because I'm visual in that way. And then I read the dialogue. And then once I've read the dialogue, especially if it's like a punchline of an ongoing, bit of storytelling, I have to go back and just kind of take it all in and soak it all in. But a lot of people don't do that when they read comics. And I think the same is with art on social media. Is, if your intent is to just get art in front of people, I think social media is a great tool to do that with, because a lot of people who will scroll through, see different people's art, eventually, hopefully, they will learn to appreciate it more. Whereas they would have to go to an art museum to do that otherwise, or there are other ways. But that's just kind of, I think in comparison, I think social media it's not better than going to an art museum, but it is good for art. I believe. I really do. I think it has helped a lot of people appreciate art more. I think there's always going to be people that just walk past art and don't really care. But for people, for people who do care, there's a lot. I mean, I know for me, I go through Instagram. There are times in every day, multiple times a day, sometimes I will just scroll through Instagram and just be in awe at all these people and their amazing art pieces. And I couldn't do that otherwise. So yeah,
that's really good. I'm really thankful for what you guys have said, because I feel like with both of you, there's the emphasis on a constructive use of social media. I think the challenge is that social media is designed to not be that way. And so you really have to be intentional to get on. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like personally, and this is my challenge, I'm not saying this applies to anyone else, but I feel like viewing art on Instagram is like, or on social media as a whole, is like it's like you've gone to a fast food restaurant and trying to eat Michelin starred food. It just doesn't work. And so it's like, if you go on Instagram, you're just flipping through. I mean, that's fast food. Whereas, so many of these pieces are meant to be enjoyed. And that's the thing I love about going to an art museum, is you have the time to, and I understand what Carl said about, in an art museum, you do the same thing. You'll just scan through the ones you don't want to see, and then you'll get to the one you do want to see. But I think the difference is you're going to a place to specifically look at art, and you're there to, you can stand physically before this piece to meditate on it, look at it, think about it, which, yes, you could do that on social media. Absolutely. I think the challenge with social media is it's designed for mass consumption. And I think some art is just not, that's not the purpose of it.
Yeah, I mean, to push back a little bit, what you just described in going to an art museum is how I approach my daily ritual of going through Instagram. And actually, I appreciate it. I love going to art museums. I really do, because you're right. You enter into a space, not just visually, but physically, mentally. All your senses are on fire with the different smells and everything. That everyone is there to look at art, so there's nothing else really competing with your attention. So you don't get that with social media at all. That's the one thing that you don't really get that same experience. But you can, and I do, honestly, I dwell on pieces on social media. And again, I think if you're going, I think the people that are going to go to an art museum and do that are also going to do that on social media. They're going to take the time to do that. And the people that don't take the time to do that on social media probably wouldn't go to an art museum to begin with.
There's definitely some correlation.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead, Damien.
No, that was it. That was just the correlation.
Yeah, I would say, just to push back a little bit on you, Brian, is that I agree with what you're saying, and as I said before, I really appreciate the approach that you take, and I absolutely agree that you have to be constructive with how you interact with social media. But the other thing that, as I said before, social media is not designed that way. It's designed for you to get in and out and be on there on it as long as possible. And the way that they're going to do that is by enticing you to continue to look at more and more and more and more stuff. And I don't think a lot of people have the discipline that you are calling for. And that's where I think the danger of it. And like you said, you can't control anyone else. I absolutely agree.
I was about to say, well, that's their problem. I don't know.
Yeah, that's their problem. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, it becomes your problem when a whole society is that way. And I feel like a lot of people are that way.
I would say, as far as what social media is doing to our society as a whole, I think it's changing the way we're communicating, and I think it's changing the way that we are valuing things. So yeah, I do agree with you on that for sure. But at the same time, I think that I still would say that the people that would find themselves in libraries and art museums, the cool people like us, would take the time to do those things and intentionally curate on social media, or just not really be on social media at all and go do those things outside anyway, which should be done by everybody, by the way. Definitely, social media should never replace doing things in real life. I think, like what Damien said earlier, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I think is a healthy balance.
Yeah.
So, what were you going to say, Damien?
I guess my question is to Chad. Do you feel that as artists we have a responsibility to remind people that there are these places, these real places where you can go to have these moments and experience these things? And if so, doesn't the idea that some of this is on social media act as the word is escaping me.
Words are hard. It's okay.
A quick, yes, it's a McDonald's cheeseburger compared to filet mignon, but it's, you're still getting the representation that this thing exists and this is something to reach for, to go to this place and see this thing. Do you feel like there's some responsibility as artists on our part to push the real thing versus?
Look, I'm just hosting this. My job is to push back and to provoke for you guys to have a great discussion. I don't
it's
have
all
a
about us,
here.
really, Damien.
Yeah, it's you guys.
He's just a giver. That's all.
Yeah, if anything is said wrong, it's not my fault. I just ask the questions and I just push you guys, to discuss.
I think we do. maybe not, and that responsibility can be recommending comics or you know, I think the responsibility in the terms of the specificity of it is in the moment, you know, who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with, what piece of art you're dealing with, you know, so on and so forth. The manner it's being delivered beyond that museum or that book or that whatever. But I think that I don't even really see it as a responsibility as much as a privilege. You know, as an artist, I get to do this. I get to say there are things beyond, you know, this moment and this creation, be it on social media or in the real world. And you can connect with it in these multiple ways. And it's fun. I mean, that's what the kick I get out of being an artist is that, you know, Stephen King on writing, you know, how he talks about how writing is telepathy. Art's the same. Art is telepathy. Art is, I have an idea. I have a concept. I'm putting it in the world. Now you take it. You know, this is you, and then you can extrapolate or pull or push or get what you want out of it. And then, you know, you go from there.
Yeah. I think to answer your question, I think it's particular to each person. So, you know, my personality is very different probably from your all's personality, and other people are different from us. And that, yeah. And we
too.
And we all like struggle with different things, right? So like when I look at social media, there are things that I do love about it, but there's more for me that's more negative and concerning for my personal mental health that I have to be careful of, that someone else might not have that same issue.
Yeah.
And so for me, yeah, I mean, I would love for people to go to art museums and art shows and, you know, interact with artists on a personal one-on-one face-to-face level. I think there's nothing that can beat that. And I think social media tends to create a superficiality about all of that we tend to want to substitute for the real thing. And so yes, I do want to push people to real experiences, whatever that is. But I understand the pushback that people would say, well, is not my seeing that art online not a real experience? And I would say it depends on context, depends on what that art is, depends on what your intention is. You know, if you're just there to see what's out there and flip through, I don't know if that's the best way to do it. But on the other hand, if you're there to see what's there, that might be the best way. You know, to expose yourself to artists that you've never seen before, which I think is one of the pros of social media as a whole. I don't really know what the answer is. I mean, I have a suggestion here at the end of what I think we should do, but I don't have a firm like. This is not a black and white. Like this is a multi shades of 50 Shades of Gray.
Sure.
You're welcome.
No, don't do this.
You're welcome of that.
Don't
yes.
bring in the 50 Shades of Chad. Please don't.
You're welcome.
I forgot what I was.
So, you know, and I think this is the interacting with social media is the same with interacting with anywhere else. The treasure, and I'm not saying this in a religious spiritual sense, but I really believe this. The treasure is wisdom. Like the only way that you can interact with things is using wisdom. That's what you have to do. Otherwise, you fall into one of two extremes where it's either I'm totally out of social media or I'm totally in, and both those are dangerous. And so I think you just have to use wisdom, which is very difficult because every situation is unique. Mm-hmm. So having said that and seeing what the time is, let's go to our last little section here. And what I want you to do is tell your personal best strategy for using social media and give us your pros and cons and your final argument of whether to use or not to use social media to promote your creativity. So Brian, you go first.
The best strategy that I have found for using social media is honestly just to be active, to post your work, but also interact with other people about theirs and enjoy it. Don't just do it because you want them to do the same thing in return. Actually go and find other people that you enjoy interacting with on social media, create a tribe, find a tribe, be in a community on social media, and like I said, it can be tricky. Sometimes social media, sometimes communities, of course, not just in social media, communities can be a fake place. Communities can be deceptive. And sometimes you have to be picky and choosy and wise and who you join. But do that. Go through that. Put in the work of doing that. And as you do that, and as you share your work with other people, and they do the same, you will start that group will start getting bigger and broader and bigger, because more people who don't know who you are and don't know what your artwork looks like will begin to see your stuff more and more as you interact with more and more people in meaningful ways. And just on social media, not even necessarily about community, just post fun things. When I don't have a Kickstarter going on, or when I am just working on a book, I will post a page, a panel that I'm worked on, but I don't just do that. Like, I post cool articles that I like. I post ridiculously stupid memes that I think are funny and make me giggle that I want to share with other people. And do that stuff. Interact with it in a fun way. Don't always be serious with it, because honestly, when you do that with social media, it can backfire really fast. I have found that. I have experienced that. And I'm sure I've not learned my lesson when it comes to that, but I have learned some lessons, and they have been beneficial since I've kind of gone the opposite direction. And so as far as a strategy, just be present, be visible. It's just like going to Comic Cons. Keep going, right? Like, a lot of people, I know for me, a lot of people, when they go to Comic Cons and they see you 3 years in a row, that's when they decide to walk up to you. And it's similar on social media. They can see your work over and over and over again. And then finally, 5 years down the road, they're like, you know what? I'm going to see what this is all about. But the only reason they did was because you kept showing up. And it sounds obnoxious, and sometimes it can feel that way. But just keep doing it. And don't do it. Do it because you love it. Here's hot take. If you hate posting on social media, if it's a lot of work and you don't enjoy this ride of being on social media, posting your work and putting out books and hustling through, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, if you don't enjoy it, stop doing it. If it is draining you, this is not for you, and that is okay. That is okay. It's a lot of work, and you're putting a lot of mental and emotional energy into this. And if it's not rewarding, focus that energy on something else that you can be rewarded in. Because there's a lot of other things you can be doing. So this, don't think that this is the end all be all. It's work just like everything else is in life. There's no easy road, but you can have fun with it either way. And then the pros of using social media to promote your creativity. Personally, the pros have been the people. I have enjoyed meeting new people. I have enjoyed interacting with new people. And I have enjoyed being able to see those people turn into readers and me being one of theirs. That's been the biggest positive of social media that I can think of. What are the cons? Is just the gross people. It's the people that just,
the cons?
yeah, the people that, yeah, it is. It's the people that show up and they're super negative or they're super, trolly, and that's all that's their only existence on social media, is just to make other people feel like garbage. And those are the people you don't need to be around. And that's the worst part about social media. So yes, just like Damien said, the best people are the people, or the best things about social media are the people. The worst things are also the people.
That's a meme right there.
Yeah, but that's life. That's not just social media. That's everywhere. Unless you're a hermit, which some days is very appealing. You're gonna get that no matter where you go, whatever you do. So that's it.
Nice. That's beautiful. Damien, your thoughts?
Can you be less comprehensive so I can say something? You really touched on everything. I feel like the only things I can add to that would be do your research, find what platforms your audience are using. You know, if you think you're steering young, you may want to go for TikTok, you may want to go for Twitter, you may want to go for the things where your audience is going to be, and then try to build that community there. Do that first. Then do everything Brian said.
I think you just verbally said a Little Mermaid song. You just, I want to be where the people are.
Oh,
go ahead, Damien. I apologize.
I don't have the hair. But yeah, just do your research and find out where you're going to be comfortable doing it to, and especially if you're promoting, because you're promoting, because you're going to want that comfort level. You're going to want to be where the people that that you feel you're building a community, so you're and it's the same. Especially when you're promoting. So do your research, figure out if it's for you, then do everything Brian said, and then watch out for the bad. Be discerning too, because you want people to, what are you doing with your promotion? Do you want just to sell your things? Do you want to build that community? Do you want to, figure out what you want, I guess, but do figure out what you want, do your research, then roll back to what Brian said, and then equals success. Cons, like I said, I said it a minute ago. The people, there are people that suck, and they're going to continue to suck. And if you let them, they'll suck all the life out of you and ruin your happiness. So be discerning, and that'll help with getting the bad element out and keep the good element in. And you'll get to build what you want.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, yeah, I don't have a ton to add to that other than just my own personal struggles with social media. For me, when I've done different things when it comes to my approach to social media, everything from like posting multiple times a day to posting once in a while. Right now, I post usually about once a week. I used to do, like I said, multiple times a day. And I found that once a week, I've gotten more interaction. The downside is if you don't post enough, then all your stuff gets buried and people don't see it, that kind of thing. But for me, like there's a lot of pros, obviously, of social media, everything from, it's free promotion, you meet other artists, you see other work, you get inspired, all of those things. For me, the cons are far outweigh the pros for me personally. So that's where I struggle with social media sometimes, because I took it off. I recently, as an experiment, took all my social media except for YouTube, took it off my phone, because I found myself constantly checking my phone. If I had a few minutes in the car, or if I'm out doing something or whatever, as soon as there's quiet time, I would just take my phone out and look. And what that created, and I didn't realize this, I remember reading articles where it said that, Facebook and social media users tend to, it increases depression and anxiety. And I used to read that and be like, what are you talking about? It's just social media. Who cares? But I got off of it off my phone, and I had no idea how anxious and depressed it was making me. I had no idea until I turned it off and realized how much I was finding my worth and how many likes and interactions I was getting. And it sounds so like shameful and silly to say, but it's a reality. As an artist, you're putting stuff out there. You want people to like it. You want people to see it. You want the reaction. You want it to be successful. I think this is all just human nature. Social media is built that way to feed that. And there is a dopamine rush. Like it is addictive. Like I've seen the research, and it truly is. Like when I turned it off, there was withdrawal. Like I was just constantly like, oh, I need to go check it. And I'm like, no, just chill out. And I had to think to myself, why am I wanting to continue to go back and check it? What value am I finding out of this? What affirmation do I need from this thing? And so for me personally, and I'm not saying this across the board, and I put a post about this actually, ironically, on social media, that to totally cut it off is not for everyone. that, it just depends on your personality and who you are. Brian, I find what you had to say very refreshing and helpful for me personally, because we have different personalities in that way. But at the same time, like, the research is true. Like, the statistics are real. Like, you
yeah.
have to be aware of the fact that it does affect who you are mentally. It affects how you see and think about the world, and you have to just judge, is it worth it? And so for me, what I had to do was detach in a way to say, my ultimate success is not social media. My ultimate success is my grandkids. If they can look at my art and say, man, my grandfather was, he was an amazing artist, that's all I need. I don't need 100, 1,000 people, praising my name for my art. The other thing I also noticed too is there's social media is getting oversaturated with art, and that can be a con for artists, because there's so much out there. Your work can tend to get buried in the midst of it all and not get noticed. And so that's one thing I started to see, and I'd seen on social media other people's responses that they would be putting posts out and no one was reacting because people weren't seeing it, because it wasn't hitting the algorithm a certain way. And you can get enslaved to that algorithm, to where I've gotten to the point where I'm thinking, okay, if I post on Tuesday at 1:00, I know it's going to do better than if I post on Friday at 3. I know Saturdays suck, Sunday evenings are good. And you start really, like, for me, it consumed my time so much because I was thinking in terms of rearranging things that I physically do in my day so I could post certain times. It just becomes very unhealthy. And so it's like anything else, like whether it's alcohol or whether it's sports or whether it's anything, it can either be a gift or it can be a blessing that you get enslaved to. And I'm the person that represents all the other people out there that could potentially get enslaved to this thing. And you just have to be careful. So Brian and I are on two opposite ends here. Brian is the constructive, I can use this in a positive way. And I'll put Damien in that too. Like, the things that you've said have been really helpful about how do I use this to promote myself? Whereas I'm on the other end where I'm like, yes, but for me, it just leads me down a mentally unhealthy road that I have to be very careful with. And that's like anything. I mean, people can, it's like anything. So at the end of the day, my answer to you, Damien, you asked a specific, like, what would I say or what would I do? I would almost say, for artists, yes, for now, social media is definitely part of a promotion strategy. But I think going forward in the future, artists really need to come up with some new and unique ways to promote their art. Because at some point, social media is not going to do it for us anymore. And I see it more and more with people just getting lost in the shuffle of all the social media algorithms and all that kind of thing. And I think artists are going to be the ones to come with a new approach to promoting who they are.
Well, here, just to jump in on that, never as much all the things we've said today tonight about the positive ways to interact on social media and how you can use it as a good tool, that should never be your foundation. Go out there, get a domain, start a website of your own, get a newsletter going, something that you own. Because at the end of the day, if Facebook decides to shut down, we have no control over that, and all our stuff is gone. So get something, get a domain, get a website, get a newsletter going. So that way you have people in front of you engaged outside of social media. Go to Comic Cons. I know right now it's a little rough because of COVID. I'm struggling there too. But outside of the pandemic, get in front of people. That's still the best way to network. That's still the best way to sell books. By all means, I agree with Chad 100%. Do other things other than social media. It should never be your end all be all of how you interact with your sales and how you interact with your community. There should always be a different thing that's the foundation.
Yep, absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts from you fine gentlemen?
Well, we have a lot of comments.
Awesome.
We
That's
don't
great.
have time to get through all of them, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna have to pick and choose. I'm sorry, guys. If I don't read your comment, it is nothing personal. I promise. So let's see. Nick Tockard says, when art, especially sequential art, is approached like fine literature, we will still have the same split between the professionals and consumers. Interesting thought. As an artist, creator, and social media, I see it as a sampler menu. What catches and moves you,
That's good. Yeah.
draws you in. Yeah, that's a good perspective to have. Carl says, "Yeah, I'm not wasting my time on Picasso's art. Zoom right to say that for me, Chad.
Renoir.
There it is. Ooh, I just wanted to hear the oozing pretension.
Renoir.
From the desk of a small press publisher says, problem with art and social media is that context is applied. Art is most appreciated when there is no context to what you are viewing. When you go to an art museum, you don't get context of a piece. Depends on the piece, depends on the art. Sometimes context is in a museum as well. So I would say that just depends on the art piece and the artist. I used to live right next to a very active train tracks. My condolences. Some of the artwork blew my mind. They could make a career with it. Yeah. Street art is some of the coolest stuff you'll ever see, for sure.
One of my favorite artists of all times is Banksy, and he did street art. And he did an incredible. But yeah, we could go into a whole thing on that.
He's not the guy that did the invisible banana, is he?
No, he did. He does like he'll do like a stencil with graffiti of like girls like holding a balloon is one of his famous pieces.
He's the guy that his piece like burned up, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
It was on auction, and the frame was designed to, as soon as it sold, it went down and it shredded half of it.
Oh.
And then it was sold, which was a brilliant move. I loved it. I love stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna have to skip a few here. Braxton says, I think it's more simple than that. I think social media is a rat race. Everyone, including artists, are to win in the form of attention and follows. It can be that. Again, I think it can be what you make it. If that's your goal, if that's what you want to do with it, then yeah, that's what it'll become. If it's not, there are people out there who also, there are other people out there who use social media the way that you do and the way that you want to. You just have to find them. And that's the game. That's the challenge. And Nick says, I'm actually, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I think that the challenge, and this is what I meant at the beginning of the show when I said museum worthy art, not to like be arrogant about it. What I meant was more of what he was saying, like great art will supersede that whole rat race mentality. Like it will be here beyond all of that. And I think social media has a tendency to make it into that rat race. And I think a bigger goal would be to create art that goes beyond that. So when this rat race is gone, that artwork is still around. That's just my personal opinion. But
I would say I think the rat race and the artwork will always be there, just in different forms.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think the rat race will just be, it'll look different. But I get what you're saying. In social media context, I agree with you.
I guess what I'm thinking of is like someone like a Van Gogh who never sold any art his whole life.
Oh,
but then after he died, he's one of the greatest artists of all time. And so if he were today, he would be seen as an absolute utter failure.
Yeah.
But then 100 years from now, you see the genius of his work. And I think what social media does is it unfortunately sometimes highlights the people that don't deserve to be highlighted, and it misses out on the people that are, super geniuses down the road that you just don't see now because of that.
I think that's why, and Chad, we've talked about this before. I think it's why it's important for you to create art because you want to create art. Don't create art just because you want other people to buy it.
Absolutely.
Create art because you want to see your thing. Like the story, Memoirs of an Angel, prime example. I am making Memoirs of an Angel for me.
Yes.
That's why I'm making it. I am making it because it is an outlet for me. I am making it because I want this story to be created. And if nobody buys it, guess what? I'm still making it.
Exactly. Yes.
So
That's another way of what I'm trying to say with the museum quality art. Like
Yeah.
it goes beyond just appealing to the masses. It's you're doing it, or the way I'm saying, doing it for my grandkids. I'm doing it because it's
jokes
important
on
to
Chad.
me.
He doesn't have grandkids.
Yeah, that's true. Not yet. Not
Not
yet.
bad.
So
Not bad.
not that I know of. So, anyways, yes, we're saying the same thing, just in different ways. So for sure.
And I think we can wrap all the comments up with Braxton just saying, "I am TikTok." And no, I appreciate everybody in the comments. We do have to get out of here. Thank you
Yes.
guys for showing up. Thank you guys for being engaged. Next week will be the holiday special where Comic Book Spectrum and the Dastardly Dingoes will once again come together and talk about our favorite Christmas holiday things. So you definitely don't want to miss next week. Chad, you opened us ever so whatever. So why don't you go ahead and redeem yourself and bring us out, my friend.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Dastardly Dingoes podcast, everyone.
Grief.
Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell. And remember, kids, the most real relationships are the virtual ones. Have a great day.
I hate you. I love you all. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for showing up. We'll see you next week.